What's up, you guys? The Curious Owl here, and today I will be doing the mid-year freak out book tag. So it has been a while since I have done any kind of book tag because I haven't really found any that have sparked my interest, and I truthfully have not been keeping up on trends on BookTube. But this is a tag that was created several years ago, like in 2016, I think, and every year it just seems to get more and more buzz when it comes around to the middle of the year. Which, by the way, when the hell did it become June? I'm freaking out because I'm gonna be getting married here in less than 5 months, and I mean, we've gotten so much stuff figured out as of yet, but now I have the last few event things to plan, like my bridal shower. I have to get invitations ready to send out here really soon. It's crazy that it's already June and I'm getting married in October. When did it become the middle of the year already? And we've gone through so much already in 2020 that it's been absolutely ridiculous. And especially in the last couple of weeks, it has been absolutely mind-boggling what has been happening in the world. So without further ado, let's get into some things about the past year that I have done in terms of my reading and stuff. So the first question is best book you've read so far in 2020. I think I've read quite a lot of good books. I don't really know what I would consider to be the best, to be honest. Wow, that's a really hard question because I have to go back through my bullet journal to see what are the books I've even read so far this year, because I've read, I think, 90 books already this year. Truthfully, I think so far this year, the one that just sticks in my head the most is a reread I've done this year, and that was Daylighters by Rachel Caine. So Daylighters was the very last book in the Morganville Vampire series, and I read it just in May, and it was amazing. I think that it was way better the second time around than it was the first time I read it, but I don't know why. For some reason that seems to be the #1 spot, even though it was just so recent. Everything else I can see in my bullet journal that I have read so far this year, none of the 5 stars really stood out to me other than Fall of Night, which was book 14, and Daylighters, which was book 15 in the Morganville Vampires. Next question is the best sequel I've read so far in 2020. That one off the top of my head I can tell you was Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. I just read that one also in May, and I absolutely loved it. I think I loved it just about as much, if not more, than Renegades. It was fantastic. The whole way that the plot had developed over the course of that book, especially in terms of Adrian. Oh, mwah, chef's kiss. Wonderful. Just adored. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. I would really like to read Clap When You Land, and that's Elizabeth Acevedo's newest book, and I adore Elizabeth Acevedo. Her other 2 books, The Poet X and With the Fire on High, I really, really enjoyed, and so I really think I'm going to love the crap out of Clap When You Land because I've heard so many people say that it's really, really good. Question 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I'm not going to use Clap When You Land for this one because that one just got released here not too long ago, within the last couple of weeks. I think the one that I'm most excited for, I don't even know if it's supposed to come out this fall or if it's being pushed back to 2021, but it's The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I'm so freaking excited for this. It's the final novel in the Poppy War trilogy, and R.F. Kuang just stated yesterday on Twitter that she finished her copy edits, and it is actually basically the page range is between what the Poppy War was and the Dragon Republic was, because the Dragon Republic was almost 600 pages and the Poppy War was smaller, but I think it was more in the 400 page range, and The Burning God is supposed to be a sweet spot between the two of them. So I'm so excited because I love this series so much. I think I may even, before that book comes out, do a reread of the first 2 books and annotate them because I love these books so much. It's my favorite adult fantasy series as of now. Question 5 is your biggest disappointment. I think recently the most disappointing book I read was The Last Vampire by Christopher Pike, which was the first book in the Thirst series, because the rest of the books I've read that were 2 or 3 stars were books I kind of just didn't feel I didn't know if I was going to really like them or not. But I think the biggest disappointment I really have had so far this year is that book, The Last Vampire, because it was starting off a reread series for me with the Thirst series, and I was really shocked by how much I disliked this first book in the series because I remember loving it so much when I was in high school. But I think this is, like I said in the review for that, which you guys will have seen by the time this video goes out, it just doesn't age well. Question 6 is the biggest surprise. Ooh, I don't really know. I don't really know if there was a big surprise I've had so far this year. I'll have to go back through my bullet journal again to see what I've read that might qualify for that. I think the biggest surprise I may have had so far this year in terms of just my overall enjoyment of the series is the Millennium series by Stieg Larsson. I've read the first 3 books already out of like, I think the 5 or 6 that there are in the series, but the first 3 were written by the original author, and then the other books that came later were written by somebody else because Stieg Larsson had unfortunately passed away after the release of The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, which was book 3. I think I'm mostly surprised by it because it's more political than I had expected it to be as like a mystery thriller series. And I actually really enjoy it because I'm not really one that is involved super well with like political stories. Like I like political based fantasies, like that's totally cool because I like seeing how the whole thing ties into like magic and how if that's affected by the magic or what, or like how families are involved with ruling a kingdom of sorts. But contemporary stories that deal with politics, I'm not necessarily a big fan of, especially if they're involved in like thriller stories. And I think I was greatly surprised by this past year reading the first 3 books in this series, how invested I got because like one of the main guys is a journalist and he's like spilling the secrets of this really awful case that the government has kind of like basically pushed under the rug. That's like the main plot of the story. And then on top of that, in the very first book, he uncovers a 30-year-old mysterious disappearance of a young woman who had like no contact with anybody outside of her family prior to it. And like I don't know, just it was a series that I think caught me off guard, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoy it. Question 7 is a favorite new author, whether it was a debut author or someone that was new to you. No, I don't really know because I think a lot of these authors I read partially like in 2019. But I will say I think one of the authors I've really grown to enjoy a lot, because I think I've read quite a few of her books at this point, is Karen Slaughter. Like she's now one of my more favorite thriller authors. I've read quite a few of her books in the very beginning of the year that I've really liked, and I've just kind of slowed down with it, reading a bunch of other books. But I think she's one of my newer favorite authors that I really, really like because I love her attention to detail, and especially The Good Daughter was like my favorite book of hers. Like I love that book so much. It is so good. And then also Pieces of Her is a really good one too. Like I don't know, I really couldn't recommend her enough as a thriller author because I think she just does the thriller genre very, very well. Also, I think tying with that would be Ellen Hildebrand because I kind of started her in 2019 going into 2020, and she's actually like a really interesting like not literary fiction, but adult contemporary author. Like I really like a lot of what she's done with her books, with the exception of like 1 or 2 that have just been kind of like for me. But in general, I really like her style of writing and I really like what she does with her kind of contemporary based stories. Question 8 is a new fictional crush. Fictional crush. Who have I really got the hots for recently? I mean, he's not a new fictional crush, but I've rekindled my love for Shane from the Morganville Vampires, if that counts, because I finished that series this year. Question 9 is my newest favorite character. Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. What was a character? Oh, I just finished Illuminae today. I really like Katie. I love Katie so much. Like she's sassy and fiery, and she's wonderful. I adore her. I wish she was my friend. Question 10 is a book that made me cry. Oh gosh, what's the last book that made me tear up? I think that had to have been Salt of the Sea by Ruta Sepetys because I was torn up inside. Like that's a historical fiction story and it's based on the sinking of a ship that was basically like taking people that were being attacked by the Nazis, like Jewish people, things of that nature. They were going on this ship to move away from like the Eastern European side and moving toward like England or someplace away from that. And the story basically told about how that ship had been attacked by German U-boats and how it basically sank and how so many people lost their lives, so many of them children. And it was just heartbreaking because historical fiction stories are always like the hardest when they deal with things like that, because it's all based in reality. It's all based in actual events that happened, but the characters are not always actually real people. They're just characters that may have been like passengers or something like that, and their experiences being on that boat with the information that the author was able to obtain. And I think that with that, Ruta Sepetys is one of my more favorite historical fiction authors now, because I've read 2 of her books and I loved both of them. And I think she just does historical fiction really well because it's evident that she takes the time to research. And that's the most important thing, I think, when it comes to doing anything with a historical base to it. Question 11 is a book that made me happy. Oh, there's so many books that have made me happy this year. Like, I have quite a lot of 5 and 4 stars from this past year alone. But I think, truthfully, the thing that made me the most happiest was finishing The Morganville Vampires by Rachel Caine for the 2nd time. Like, that just brought me so much joy because I loved that series so much in high school, and I still have so much love for it now that it really made me happy to see that by the end of the series, I just still was in love with it about as much, if not more, than I was in high school. Question 12 was the most beautiful book I've bought so far this year or received. I think I'm not really a cover person. Like, I think that like they're nice, but I'm not really always drawn to a book just by the cover. I guess the closest one might be Wicked Saints. I can't remember if I bought that this year or if I bought it at the end of last year. I can't remember, but I'm going to go with that one because I really, really like the cover for Wicked Saints. Like, that was probably one of my favorites from 2019 in general. And the last question is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? All of them. So there you guys go. Those are all of the answers I have for the mid-year book freakout tag, or mid-year freakout book tag, however the hell you want to say it. But yeah, I have a lot of books that I want to read by the end of the year, mostly because I have my readathon going on right now for the House Cup-a-thon. And I have another readathon that's going to be going on later this year that you guys will get to see closer to the fall, that I'm doing with Adrienne Liv. So I'm very, very excited for that. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Let me know what your answers to this tag would be down in the comments below, and like what you think are some of your most favorite books of the year so far. How are you doing on your Goodreads goals? I already very early on in the year had beat my Goodreads goal of 52, and then so I extended that to 100, and I am nearly done with that as of now. I think I'm somewhere between 85 to 90 books already done this year, so that's mind-boggling. Like, holy crap, I've read nearly 100 books already. It's 6 months into the year and I'm not done yet. I'm still going. Like, I have so many books that I'm still planning on reading over the course of this year. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.